Today's episode is sponsored by Tor Johnson Records. Head over to torjohnsonrecords.com and check out their web store, which is packed with today's finest emo, post-hardcore, and screamo releases, including There Were Wires, Late Bloomer, Northeast Regional, Heavy Mantle, and more. To top it all off, the site offers monthly specials and recommendations via the bestsellers tab on the right of each page. Stop by torjohnsonrecords.com to check it all out. That's TORJOHNSON records.com. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. We have a great show lined up for you today, but before we get to that, I'd like to remind you that we have a Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. Head over there to check out comics, zines, behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, and all kinds of other things. Patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Static Voice Speaks to Static Me by Heavenly Blue, featuring my pal Drew Coughlin on drums. The song comes from their brand new album, We Have the Answer, which you can find on Bandcamp now.
I was in 6th grade, and this is very funny because I guess I technically don't have like a favorite band anymore, at least at the moment. But if I was to answer, like if someone asked me who technically my favorite band is, I would probably say Circa Survive. And it was like 6th grade. My friend Zach gave me the album recommendation of Juturna, and that was a very like key moment in everything changing for me music wise. I wasn't even in a local band yet. I hadn't started playing shows. I was definitely playing the drums, but I was just kind of like practicing on my own. But yeah, it's probably the Circa Survive Juturna album really flipped everything upside down for me.
Do you remember what it was about it specifically? Was it just everything, or was there something in particular like that grabbed you right away? Like, was it the vocals, the drums, guitars?
Yeah, I definitely I'm sure it was like Anthony Green's vocals.
Right.
I'm like, wow, I've never heard someone sing like that before. And then like on top of the music that they were making, just the musicality was like something so fresh that I had never really heard before. Mm-hmm. So which is even funnier because I like started playing shows in the first local band I joined in like 8th grade, 9th grade, and started playing like basement shows or like shows at rec centers. And it's just very funny that I was like not even making that kind of music, not even close to that kind of music, you know what I mean? I was making like straight up like metalcore. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that was like a super good introduction for me to like just alternative music in general.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
did you find it like was it just like, did it amp you up, or did you find it like, you know, because you're kind of a thinker is behind the drum kit, from what I can tell, right? So like, yeah. Was there an aspect to that as well where like it stimulated your like did it get you like counting and observing and stuff like that, or was it just like this Anthony Green wailing and just like the force behind it all that was just got you
I
going?
think it. I think it was probably like the guitars, like the string instruments,
Yeah.
that got me like mostly like captivated.
Mm-hmm.
That album is genius. The songwriting, but also just like their tones that they were getting, and like, yeah, it's really hard to explain. And I guess just being as young as that, I just thought I was like, man, this is so freaking cool. And I was like kind of shocked that my friend Zach back then like had already been on that for I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's a that's like that's a really interesting time, like as far as like when I think about my listening. um it's pre like Spotify and all that, it's
uh-huh.
pre like. And so you're right in that era where, I've talked about this before, where it's like I was downloading like tons of stuff and just throwing it in Winamp and letting it play on random. So like I know, you know, I know Circa Survive songs like quite well, like when they come
Right.
on, but I have no idea like what album something's from, like, um, I knew of, Circa Survive and stuff, and so that's how I sort of the throughway there for me and a lot of folks,
Hmm.
was because of Seosin rather, like
Oh, right.
that's
Yeah.
um, and yeah, it's not just like the fact that like there was, this was like pre Spotify or whatever, but like also the fact that that era right there, like a little, maybe like what, like around 2004 or something, was,
Hmm.
it was a lot of, you know the the old guard of like screamo, where all this stuff sort of got its main inspiration from, was like gone. Like none of the like Orchid and like none of the bands that were around that probably inspired a lot of those bands that took what they were doing and made it like way more
Oh,
melodic, were
oh,
just,
sure.
yeah. And so you were seeing that like Circa Survive and Seosin, and you're seeing like even bands that took it even further than that, which like in the melodic and more commercial sounding sense, like Emery or Static Lullaby and stuff like that. And so
God, that is so funny to think about. Yeah, and
yeah.
it cracks me up because I was like super late into like the old school stuff, like the old school emo screamo stuff.
Hmm.
I really started diving into all of that when Yume started, but that was back in 2017.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, it's just very funny to hear like a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's wild
Um,
because like, see, so um when when I've heard of all these bands, it's like as they were happening, in the because I'm like a bit older, so like I heard Orchid and all this stuff like as it was happening, like when Chaos Is Me
right,
came out, it was like there's this new album, you have to get this, and I put it on my turntable like as soon as it came out, and I was like, my mind was blown, right? And so
right,
like
right.
then at some point, like a few years later, my brother had moved in with us, and my brother was really into the stuff like I was just describing. He was really into stuff that was more commercial sounding and like more accessible sounding, to like I wanted the stuff that was like force fed glass, and all that, like, and stuff that sounded like the name of the band, it's like super abrasive and just like, because that's where I like, everybody, when this was happening, like in the, late 90s and whatnot, everybody was like, this isn't punk. Like, I don't know what this is. And I was like, no, this is like the logical progression of punk to me, because like punk doesn't sound punk anymore. Like, no effects, come on. That's not punk, right? Like it's,
Right.
it's punk by like, I don't know, whatever metric you want to say it's punk by, I guess. But like, to me, that's, I was like, this is just the next logical step. Like, it's like, Black Flag yelling, getting to that point where it was going to be a scream, and then screaming, just straight up, just like, go for it. And the music getting more intense. And, and so this was like this thing where people were taking like some of the elements of stuff like Yaphet Kotto or whatever, the singing and stuff. And they were like, what if we like leaned on that? And then, more people would like it. And they were right, and Under Oath and all that stuff. But that's the stuff that my brother really liked. So we're all downloading this stuff, and it's all getting like chucked into this, same like Winamp folder. And so, I had this really wild playlist for a while. And sometimes like we would make like CDs with just the weirdest, like from like Anatomy of a Ghost and, just like Under Oath songs and Rise Against or whatever. And then to like the Kayambi Communique, the stuff that people still hadn't even really, hadn't popped on their radar and stuff. But,
Yo, did you ever listen to, this is so funny. I'm just like, I'm trying to like take my brain all the way back to like everything else that I was like slowly, but surely getting into after the discovery of that Juturna album, but like Versus the Mirror.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Okay, Versus the Mirror was, and it's because Juturna, they were on Equal Vision.
Oh, okay.
So I hopped onto that pretty quick after I came across the Juturna album. And then that's how I found out about like, so I was still in middle school. I was finding out about all those bands. Like Bear vs. Shark was on it. But there was this band Versus the Mirror who I think was like the first, in my opinion, like the first true like screamo sounding band I came across. And it's just it's so interesting because I think in a lot of ways they're different from a lot of the other like screamo bands, that everyone knows about and listens to. But I'll never forget coming across them, or in like, it was in middle school too, and I was like, wow, this is weird. Like, I would highly recommend checking out Versus the Mirror. I think the album I'm talking about is called Home, but they have this like really cool song. I think it was like a single that they put out called Birthed by Architecture. Solid album from beginning to end though. And I to this day, I still consider it like very emo screamo. And I thought it was interesting because, maybe my memory of Equal Vision is a little skewed, but I don't remember too many bands being on that label at that time that were like them. So
yeah, I don't remember who all was on that label, but like I thought that back in the day that it was a pretty good label. And then they even, I believe, did one of the Hot Cross records, or maybe more than one Hot Cross record.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I didn't know everything that was on that label at the time, but
I don't remember. My claim to fame with Equal Vision is that somebody apparently from the label came to a house at my show to check out Akamili.
Oh, hell yeah.
And nothing happened. Like it was,
but they were there. They saw something.
It was this weird situation where, like I was friends with people who knew people, and my friend was like, yeah, this guy that I know that works at Equal Vision went to one of your shows and was like, don't you know them? And he was like, yeah. And asked about us and was like, if they basically suggested to my friend to suggest to us to get a better recording and then hit them up. And like, it was this whole situation with like one of our, with our drummer, where it just like, it was not working out with him. And so we were like, well, what if we get like somebody else to do drums on a recording, but it's like a good recording, then we can show it to this person. And it was this whole thing. And ultimately it was like, by the time this other recording happened, there were so many things wrong with the way that the band was functioning that it was just like over, it was like more or less over. And but yeah, that's my Equal Vision story, is that like somebody came to a basement show like in Lafayette at some point to check out a Chameleon, and we had all kinds of things that were supposed to happen like shortly after that, and one by one, things just didn't happen, and it was kind of the slow death of
what band was it again? This was before
this was like 2000, 2003. It was this band A Chameleon.
Oh, you're gonna have to send me something.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. It's a lot of people like it. I still get messages that are basically like, I don't know how to feel about. Like, I'm excited that people still like it, and I'm excited that people resonate with it so much. But I still get messages that are essentially like, "You'll never do anything as good as this again," and I'm like,
"Oh my gosh!"
I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. But
yeah, you're like, thank you.
Yeah. It's like, it's just one of those things. Everybody has like, everybody has their thing that imprints on them, finds them at the right time. And
definitely, yeah.
Like, I can't, I don't know. Like, I'm not mad about it, you know what I mean? But it definitely, there's always, it's gonna make you feel some kind of way,
Was it other members of Coma, or just totally different group?
No, I mean, I wrote all the songs though, so it's like, it's funny how like, it's funny how there's these through lines with my bands, because like I wrote like all the songs really, and so like A Chameleon was 5 songs that people in Keiki Obati didn't want to play because they thought that they were too simple. And the first 3 Coma Regalia songs are songs that the drummer from A Chameleon never learned, So it's like,
oh, sure.
It's literally just like, and then there's like in your bands, sometimes you take ideas from one thing to the next, and sometimes you're just in a different place. So it feels different when you execute it, So, I mean, I get that people wouldn't make those connections. People wouldn't be like, these sound like Keiki Obati songs when they're thinking of A Chameleon. They wouldn't think, the songs on the first Coma Regalia split, they wouldn't think these sound like A Chameleon songs, Like it's, it's execution, That's why, like, I don't know. That's why like, even though like none of us are necessarily reinventing the wheel, that's why it sounds fresh when we're in a new space and with new people, because it's like,
yeah, definitely,
we're just making like our own thing. But yeah, you were talking about Yume, and like I remember that band was around for a fair bit, and I enjoyed what y'all are doing a lot. It was it was a, for people who haven't listened, it was a lot more clean. It was a lot more like, just, it felt freeform in a way. Even though, you had like obvious, structures and stuff, but yeah, it felt like a real like musicians band. And how do you like reflect on that as far as like, the way that y'all wrote songs or whatever. How did those songs come together? Was it just like everybody showed up with their idea hats on and you just worked through some stuff, or like?
We well, yeah, so the three of us, it was Asa on guitar and vocals, and then Marcus on bass, and then I was drumming and screaming at the same time. A lot of the material, there was quite a few moments where all three of us like wrote as a unit in a space. Um but a lot of the time Asa and I were working on the material, and so that we could bring something to when Marcus was able to show up, and the three of us rehearse, and then we would just like go from there. And it was kind of like an inch by inch thing a lot of times, but I just that band was so sick. Asa, if I'm remembering correctly, was just learning to play guitar. Um, so like that was like I think their first band, like while in the middle of like teaching themselves a new instrument like that, which was crazy to me.
Mhm.
Because he just caught on so quickly. He's a fantastic writer. Um, and yeah, every once in a while, I still reminisce and looking back miss drumming and screaming at the same time. But I could not do that right now if I tried. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, how was I doing that? Um, but yeah, just that was like it's so hard to explain. Like just doing that in the live shows. Um, yeah, we were almost a band for like 5 years, I think. So it was a nice run.
Yeah. Did did the band end sort of naturally, or was it like I'm leaving, and so I guess that's that?
Yeah, well, that like stuff with Heavenly Blue started happening with me. Asa was getting more and more into school to become a nurse. Marcus, it happened. I think it happened naturally, like all three ways for like all of us.
Yeah.
And Marcus is huge into like taking care of animals and like was a vet tech back in the day, and their current job was like I think management in like a dog walking company in DC, um, but was like also trying to like get their own business going, for the near future. So we were all just like really starting to hone in on all of our other things.
Yeah, like what you wanted out of life, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot, and figuring out like how to keep Yume going.
Mhm.
Um, I think it was, oh god, it's so hard to remember back to what it was like how we were affected by the pandemic. It's such a weird thing to think about.
Yeah.
It's like funny that right when everyone was about to, or right when everyone was able to start playing shows more again, um, was probably like the most exposure we were gonna like get. Um, we did a little weekender with Massanera, um, who we were like really good friends with ever since we played with them the first time. I think it was back in like 2018, and they toured, and we opened up for them in Baltimore. But it's like 2020. I think it was like beginning of 2021. We did like a 3-day weekender, um, and we were getting ready to put out our last album. And I think after that weekender, we only did one more show, and it was in the summertime, and it was with like For Your Health and The Sky So Black, um, and a couple of other bands in hometown Baltimore at this place Auto Bar.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, very very fond memories. That was a very cool beginning of the year. for us in that.
Let's talk about your audition for Heavenly Blue, more or less.
The accidental audition.
Okay, you knew what you were doing. You're like, I'm gonna put this out there, and it's gonna knock Maya's socks off. No, but so I don't know if you've told that story before, but I think it's really a sweet story, and I would like to hear the way that you tell it.
Yeah, I just love it because that's definitely not like the only time I've done that in my practice space. Like, I think I did it. I saw Frail Body play in Baltimore with For Your Health, and I can't remember if they were on a tour together or if it was just like everyone just randomly came together for that Baltimore date or what. But
Right.
But yeah, I would do these little covers, and I like didn't even know how to like mic anything up on my kit, or I didn't have any equipment to like have the song playing over top of like my drumming. You know what I mean? But I would just like do these little renditions. I would just try to listen in as close as I could, and then play it back, and would do these little covers of snippets of songs that I really, really enjoyed of these bands that I was just like discovering out of nowhere. I feel like I learned a lot of those bands during the pandemic, um, which is actually so funny to think about because there was a very like claustrophobic time for me. Kind of it didn't feel so much like that in the moment, but like now looking back, because we really like couldn't go many places, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully I was able to keep my job. I was like in management at this cafe in Baltimore, so I was still able to like leave the house and go into work and just be out and about like that at least. And then one of the only other places was my practice space because I really just like had the key for it. So like you know some of the bands that I was in, like that was just our space, but I was just kind of like I just had to keep it to myself for a little bit. But it had to have been like 3 or 4 days out of the week instantly when I would get out of work, and all our hours were all screwed up because we weren't staying open till normal time. We were closing early all the time, and my practice space was like 10-15 minutes away tops. So I would just zoom over there for hours, like into the night, and just do my thing. But it's just funny, I'm thinking about that's probably when I was doing a lot of those little renditions that we're talking about with like bands that I was, and then I'm like just discovering all this music because when I wasn't at work or at the practice space, I'm just in my in my room in the house, just like zooming on the computer, you know what I mean, just going through music. But yeah, I just thought it was so funny. I did it to, I don't remember what the first song on the youth novel Self-Titled that they put out on Valentine's Day in 2021. And I was just like, holy smokes. I was like, this is some like extreme screamo. Yeah, and I was just kind of like trying to like promote that and promote them and get the word out about that album. And yeah, but I was always just posting on the certain group chats, for I guess certain people to be able to see. But it was just so, I was really not expecting John or Maya or like anybody from that band to see it and really say anything about it. But yeah, I was just laughing talking to my girlfriend earlier today. I was like, that's when I was like, babe, this person that I'm going to talk to was like the only other person who saw um, the exchange between John and Maya and I, when they basically were just like, well, I guess welcome to the band. And I was like, yeah, all right, that's funny. That's cool. Um, but yeah, John actually like personally messaged me after that exchange on the video and was just kind of like, there was nothing about band talk yet or much of anything else. Just like, as you probably know, like Youth Novel is kind of inactive at this rate, but we do have new tunes, and we would really love if you wanted to record drum tracks on top of them. And I was like, well, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it was, you were sold just like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, if it's gonna be anything like what that Youth Novel album was like,
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, yeah, let's just do it. And it was really nice and like very natural feeling. And we all found someone to work with. So I like was working with Matt Redenbow from Islet.
Right.
Because they're the audio engineer at Magpie Cage.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just one of those things where it was just like, it's doesn't need to be that hard. Like you just go and look for someone to work with you in Baltimore, and we'll just do it from afar right now and just swapping files. And I'm not used to like how all of that works, but they clearly knew what was up, and I was just like, yeah, I'm totally down to record some drums to these songs.
Did you
So it was
record the whole album that way?
um a big portion of this album that's coming out are Baltimore drum recordings
Oh wow.
from that session. Yeah, we probably did. So the first thing I did was
The comp.
the comp song. Yeah, because they actually had a deadline for that.
Yeah.
Because they got asked when it was like still Youth Novel. And I was like, oh, I would love to be a part of that. I was like, so that should be like the test song and see how it goes. And that way they could get it sent in. But we probably recorded like 6 or 7 other songs. The summer of 2021 after getting comp songs sent in. It was very interesting. A couple of the songs they had some songs that were already like written from beginning to end, and then we actually wrote remotely too for 3 songs.
Okay.
Yeah, so a couple of those sessions were just like me writing in my practice space. And it was actually very crazy. I would like record myself with my phone, and I would send it to a Google Drive that we all had. And I would pretty much send it to Maya, because she was like the main audio engineer. I mean, she still really is, but she was the person that would like take my videos, and would just like she actually was middying everything out like hit for hit, what I was playing in the video, so she could get like a better view, on the screen, and get like a BPM and all this stuff. And then people just started tracking, just like pre-pro strings, guitars, and bass, and it was very wild to like see happening in real time,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it was cool. I really like that we were able to do that for a couple of the songs that are on this album.
Yeah. this is starting to make a lot more sense. I mean, not that it couldn't have happened any other way, but was there a lot of reflection on y'all's parts to draw from as many of your different influences as possible? Because that's what the album feels like to me.
That's very sick. Oh my gosh, I don't even. Yeah, it is so trippy thinking back. Like it's kind of crazy that a lot of this material, was from 2021,
Yeah.
and I don't even know how much farther back on their end. Like with some of the songs that I was just like writing the drums to. Um, yeah, I think there are so many different influences coming into play. I feel like maybe, which is so funny, like I'm into screamo, but I was late into screamo. So I'm like thinking back to like everything that I was like really into and listening to and playing before, Yume in 2017, because I was playing for a long time before then. But like I said, I was like, it's fun. It's like weird to say like metalcore, like synthcore, metalcore,
Yeah.
influence. But like those were the kinds of bands that I was in before, like Yume and stuff. People out here, like as soon as I moved out here, they were like getting me into the, I don't know, just like really wild stuff that I was not expecting. Like I feel like I've been stuck in the mid to late 90s, just from everything that like John and them have been listening to. A lot of people, they like love slowcore. They love noise rock. I guess more so just like punk. Yeah, I don't know. We listen to a bunch of different things, outside of just emo and screamo.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what I was expecting exactly. I haven't gotten the chance to catch y'all live. But when you start seeing pictures of two freestanding vocalists, like I am immediately thinking back on the bands from the late 90s, and thinking of just super wild, abrasive, just people bleeding all over the place and crying and everything else. But this is way more melodic than I was expecting. And
Oh, nice.
not like in a bad way at all. It's just like I heard just influences like all over the place, and I thought it was really wonderful, but yeah, it really it surprised me because I had no reference for it except for like the comp song, obviously.
That's awesome, though. That's very nice to hear. It's very cool to hear. Thank you.
For sure. Yeah, it's a great album, and like I said, it makes a lot of sense that this was recorded and interpreted and reworked, and like however y'all were doing these things, like you said, oh, like she's taking like live videos and sort of like writing to a MIDI of the drums, and I'm assuming there was like back and forth there, like, oh, and then what if we stop right here and then do this,
yeah.
and so
I mean, like that was like half of it was like me getting down what I considered on my end like the song, and it was just drums, and I was like making sure that it was like 2.5 minutes long or whatever, and then I'm just like, okay, boom, that's good enough. Send it over, and then she would do that to, I guess, essentially like it was just easier for her to get the BPM, to get like click tracks, and then just start writing for guitars and bass a lot of the time. But yeah, she like when she would make edits and send back edits, she would be like, I heard something a little different right here. So she was literally able to just like alter those MIDI drums like nothing, and
Yeah.
um and she was just like, tell me what you think, because I know it changes on the drums, very briefly. I was like, that's fine. It sounds great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can write over that, or I can do that when it's like time to like really record. Um, yeah, but like that entire summer was really extreme for me. I've just never done anything like that before. They're just so, I can't say enough good things about the group of people out here. They're some of the most intelligent and creative uh, artists and musicians I've ever come across, and even sweeter people. And like knowing that now, but after we did all of that recording, I was like, oh my god, I have to introduce myself. Um, so we just made the plan. It was that fall. I just took a couple days off of work, and I was like, I'm just gonna drive out there and like see what's up with the Midwest and visit a new city. And maybe at the most I just like say thank you for this crazy opportunity. At least it would have been like some kind of just like one-off album, because like I said, no one was talking about a band still. No one was taking anything that far yet. We were just doing these recordings.
So it kind of felt like this makes it more real for you. Like you get to meet these folks and you get to spend a little time, and
Yeah,
then
I just wanted to like get to know everyone and see what was really going on. And like because it was also it was like some of the best and craziest music I had ever been a part of. And I was like, I just need to introduce myself. And it was even crazier because they are like some of the biggest gearheads I've ever come across yet. And mainly like everything recorded, on this album, I'll say, besides like the Magpie Cage drums that I did with Matt, like everything's home recorded on their end. At like the multiple practice spaces that they've had / we've had over the last couple of years. But John hit me up before I came out in 2021 and was like, hey Drew, this is kind of crazy, but I found a deal on this like Scorpion Tack, I think that's what it is. Scorpion Tack, like soundboard, um, that they found someone in Philadelphia was like selling it for like $200. Um, and they were like, since you're coming out, do you think you could like find a friend to like trek up to Philly with you and get this from this dude and, bring it out with you when you come in 2021? And I was just kind of like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, that sounds fun. Yeah, he like, I guess Venmo'd this person the money, and
they punk posted you. They had you were the punk post.
it was crazy. I don't know who this dude was, so wild, like whose apartment we were at in Philly, and my friend Nas back in Maryland, and I just went up there, and I just like that thing was so freaking heavy, and we were just like carrying it down like multiple flights of stairs in this dude's apartment complex, and it was crazy. And then I just kept it in the trunk of my car for like the next week, like because I was like, I'm not doing anything else with this until I drive it out to them in Detroit. But I think I'm almost positive that's what we're still like that's what Maya's still using. They got it set up and they got it working, and they use it all the time for stuff, and I'm horrible with like recording and mics and that whole setup. But
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think you know a little bit more. But they got it working pretty quickly once I got it out to them. And it's still set up in our current space doing its thing.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
yeah, that is such a European story. Like in Europe, I think both times that I've been on tour in Europe, there's been somebody somewhere where it was arranged beforehand that you were going to pick up a box of something from somebody and you're going to give it to somebody like on 3 towns from now or something. Like they just do this constantly, apparently.
Oh, that's wild.
Like, yeah.
Like in the middle of your tour.
Yeah, it's a punk post. It's just like, oh, this person that we ordered our shirts from is also going to give you shirts for this other band that you're playing with in like 3 countries over or whatever. You know, that wasn't necessarily the thing that happened, but like that's an example, you know?
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, the punk post, like, and I don't know. There was only like one time where it was like, I think somebody asked if we could do something, and we're like, that's not on our way, and they were trying to convince us, but I'm not.
Right.
Yeah. I wasn't like in charge of anything over there, so I think that's something that I may have misunderstood, but I think that's what happened. Was there's just like one point where somebody was like, "Can you take this?" and it was like, they just do this all the time. So it was just like somebody could not understand why we couldn't in that particular instance. But yeah, it's the punk post. You got punk posted, and that
I definitely did, and I was just kind of like, man, I don't know how much crazier this trip can get, and I haven't even left to go there yet. Yeah. I'm really not like a big. It's so funny. I'm not a big like traveler. I'm not a big like. I don't know I don't want to say risk taker isn't the words, but like adventurer, I guess.
Yeah.
I am very like extroverted. And I'm very this and that, but like when it boils down to things, I am like chilling a lot of the time. So I was like, man, this is crazy that I'm doing this, you know, like just kind of packing a bag and just driving, you know, for 8.5 hours, and I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just gonna follow my, you know, phone and doing this thing with the soundboard. Like I guess why not? Like yeah. I may never like see these people again. But yeah, so I like stayed with Maya when I got there for like 4 nights. The story is even funny. It just gets funnier. Like I think that entire trip I took, I think we, as like the group, like the main core group that did the recording and the writing, like over the summer, I think we set everything up like one time, and played one youth novel song. And it was just like not the one that I covered in that little rendition video, but we just like set everything up, played one song, just wanted to see how it sounded with everyone playing together in one room for once, and it was just great. It was like, oh my gosh, that was fantastic, and everyone was like, yeah, cool. Maya was like, oh yeah, it sounded great. And then we just like turned everything off and just didn't do anything else like that for the rest of the trip. It was just like enjoying like traveling the city and, you know, getting all the like John is a huge coffee fanatic like me, and he took me on like a coffee tour and pretty much just he was like a tour guide for me for the city, and they took me to get like my first Coney dogs and just a bunch of random stuff. I went to like the DIA. It was great.
They were really trying to get you to love that place. They were sowing the seeds.
They were like, okay, now we know what we really need to do. Get out here.
Relief is right where you wanna, waiting for just what you need. A piece of you for a piece of me. Relief is right where you wanna, waiting right under the water. We'll give you just what you need. A little room to breathe, room to breathe, room to sleep, room to breathe, room to sleep, to breathe, room to sleep, room to breathe, room to sleep. Relief is right where you wanna, waiting for you under the water. We'll give you just what you need. A piece of you for a piece of me. Relief is right where you wanna, waiting right under the water. We'll give you just what you need. A little room to breathe, room to breathe, room to sleep, room to breathe, room to sleep, room to breathe, room to sleep, room to breathe, room to sleep.
Nervous of eye contact now. Is this really how I'm gonna react? Staring at the one I'm worth on your back. Keep walking away. Keep walking away. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I know it's hard down there. I know it's hard down there. We're still climbing to escape. I know my colors couldn't shrink, but they're only good for the ball. I know there's a cure, but you're only good for a ball.
How does this turn into, hey, let's go on a trip?
So drove home from that trip and was just like, okay, that was pretty wild. And then I just started, which is so wild to me because I'm trying to think back to, I might have all of my stuff mixed up. I think Yume may have been doing that Weekender with Massanera in the very beginning of 2022, not 2021. Sorry, my brain just trending back
Yeah,
to all
that whole era is just a mashup of,
yeah.
like bad things and, and light.
Just like
and,
lost time, kind
yeah.
of. Now, okay, so yeah, the remote exposure that was listening to, experiencing like a weekender for the first time with Massanera doing that last show for your health and your friends. That was the beginning of 2022. So yeah, I guess I just went back home, 50 years old, and was just kind of like, well, that was crazy. And then I just started kind of just living life again, like I was before in Maryland.
Mhm.
And we just never lost contact, like Heavenly Blue folks and I, and but and I don't think there was like I was just one of the new members. Like they ended up getting our friend Chris on one of the guitars. They ended up getting their friend Mac on the other guitar. Earlier on, that they were like, yeah, we should have like dueling vocalists. So everything was like, well, it was, I think originally it was going to be our friend Nathan, who was the main vocalist of the self-titled Youth Novel album.
Right.
And yeah, that's who's actually on that comp song that came out on the compilation. I think like John and Maya also did like backup vocals on that track, but that's a lot of Nathan screaming from the Youth Novel album.
Okay.
Stuff ended up falling through with Nathan at some point. They were just like, they weren't ready to do it again.
Sure.
So then that's when like the dueling vocalist thing, I think, came into play.
Okay. At what point is it decided that this is an entirely new band? Is it still Youth Novel in y'all's mind at this point, or is this the change?
Yeah, I think when all the new members really started coming together, I think that's when someone was like, all right, we should change the name. I can't remember that exact point in time, whether it was at the end of 2021 or like into the year of 2022, but definitely with the new members added. Okay. And I think I even think with like the recordings that we had done summer of 2021 with Magpie Cage, I think it was just like there was just so many like ex-members at one point from Youth Novel, and then all of us were coming in, and then the music was like very similar, but sounding a little different here and there. I think it was just like everyone was like looking at it as a fresh start.
Sure.
So I remember like a week of just people in the it was like a Facebook chat, I think, but a week of just people just like throwing names out, trying to see if something would stick. There was so many crazy names.
All right, what's the worst one that you can remember?
Oh, I think it was my favorite was Hot Names.
Hot Names was the name proposed by someone?
It was proposed by me.
Oh, okay. You said we should call ourselves Hot Names.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. But that just gives a little peek into probably the hundreds, if not like 1,000 band names that like we all together were just throwing into this chat.
But there wasn't one that was like, I mean, Hot Names is that's an interesting one, but like there wasn't one that was just like, oh, this is so bad. Like you don't have to say who said it, but was there one that was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody said that?
You know what? I can't think of one that has like stuck in my head, but I will be honest, and it was probably me that said it.
But yeah, so it was almost Hot Names. Interesting. I wonder. I'm gonna Google Hot Names after Hot Names band,
see if it's a band,
and see if it's an actual band. Because when I was trying to look for y'all one time, I was like, oh, there is already a band called Heavenly Blue as well.
Oh, there is. I always forget about that too.
Yeah, because I found out about that, and then like I saw a photographer that I follow. They were like, this was Heavenly Blue at the whatever, and I was like, that is not anyone that I know. And I was like, oh yeah. But Hot Names, maybe that was the hi, we're Hot Names from Michigan.
It was just so funny. I feel like there was like no actual conversation for a week straight. Like the conversation was just everyone throwing in band names that were like off the top of their head to see what would stick. I can't even remember who. It was either John or Maya that came up with Heavenly Blue.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's like I don't even remember any of these dates, but they just hit me up at some point in 2022, and they were like, "We can do this. Would you be down to play some shows?" And that was ZBR. And then we made they like booked a show at their old practice space the night after, just as like a little hometown thing. So it was just these two shows, and then I would go back home again. And I was like, hell yeah. I was like, I'll come out. Let's do it. So I came out like a week before, and we just did this like tech week and just rehearsed for like, 4 nights in a row or whatever, just to get as ready as we could. And it was really crazy. I I just don't think I like really understood. Not, I guess there's not like much to understand, but like, I mean, that was like one of the wildest shows I had played at that time was like ZBR.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really funny that it was like our first show, and I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like we had the inside joke that we bring up all the time, so where we're just kind of like, oh, I guess we're kind of doing this.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were very much flying by the seat of our pants with that. But like, I remember Mel and Juno were just like they were like looking in like diaries while they were screaming into the mics while we were playing. And I was just like, this is very crazy to me right now.
So, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say very, very fond memories, though, because at that point we were still doing a lot of youth novel tracks, and just slowly slipping in like Heavenly Blue material as we
Okay.
were able to like learn it. But
Because
we
it
were
was
doing,
like half recorded.
Yeah.
Like your
yeah.
bits and stuff were pretty much done, but everything was still sort of being written and fine tuned and whatnot. So it was like half
Yeah.
recorded. Okay.
And just it was like on their end, it was like for the sake of like, especially doing something like that fest. And just, yeah, it was like those two shows and then the tour that we did at the end of 2022 with those couple Touche dates and Frail Body. Like those were the two times that we were doing, I would say even more than half that like youth novel stuff, and then the rest of the stuff was like Heavenly Blue.
Okay. And where does the secret voice thing come in? Is the record totally finished at that point, or is Jeremy kind of on one of these tours like, hey, when that's done, let me know? Like, where does that come in?
Yeah, I don't know the whole story. I mean, like I guess they got tied into it when youth novel essentially got asked to be on the comp in the first place. So I think that was like the core connection. And then doing those, doing Ohio and Pittsburgh with Touche. I'm not saying that like sealed anything, but that just was like, it was really cool for everyone to actually like come together and just like have those couple moments. And I think that was always the goal, like their goal. Like once getting the LP done to send it to them, to Secret Voice, like send it to Jeremy. But I mean, the album wasn't finished until like August or September of last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had a lot of stuff to do still at that time when we were doing those dates with Touche and Frail, which also is like it's like very, very memorable for me, like listening back through that album, like now that it's all done, because I feel like so many different memories and moments and time periods are kind of like encapsulated now. It's like the 2021 sessions, and then there's a good chunk of material on that album that like literally had not been written until I like moved out there. I moved to Detroit in November of 2022. And that was when they they had a new practice space. They were moving everything from their old one. It was just like a whole new chapter in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's where the rest of the material, for the most part, was like written and rehearsed and ended up being recorded.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now that the album is out there, what are the plans going forward? Do you have like more tours you're gonna get to? Are you already just like working on new songs? Like what's coming up
Yeah,
for following the release?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much I can say, but I can say some stuff. So there, it was after like this last tour that we did to celebrate the album release, along with Frail Body's album release. Um, it was a very amazing tour, I think, for all of us, and we hadn't all played together since last August at New Friends. Um, so I think we were all just really excited to just be able to get back at it for a few weeks. But before that, I think it was like the very beginning of this year in January. Um, a lot of us took a trip up to a cabin just to get away for a couple of days, like an extended weekend. Um, and we did start demoing LP2. So that was very cool because it's just like I don't want to say like I would um not like to just the writing and the whole process for LP1 was just like I don't think it could ever be exactly created like that again. You know what I mean,
Sure.
for another album. So it was just super sick to be starting from ground bottom
In the
um,
same room.
in
And
the same room. Yeah, we
yeah.
literally just decked out this living room area of the cabin that we were in. Like we were like on the water. Um, it was really cool. It was a nice getaway. Um, but yeah, and we just focused. That was our main focus, was just kind of like playing together and seeing what we could come up with. And we like Maya, like I don't even remember what they brought, but they brought all this recording stuff, and we were just like tracking everything, like from when we started to when we called it quits that night. Um, Yeah, so I guess that's what I could say for LP2. There's a lot of cool sounding material that I think we've decided to hold on to and kind
That's
of,
that's awesome.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Um,
Like a stuff to sort of sift through and build upon, and and yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds
yeah,
like that sounds so like idyllic, like it's like that a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, I want to go out there and like write a graphic novel or an album. That sounds perfect. And
yeah,
I mean,
it was so interesting. There was literally not like nothing out there. There's like a little market store. It was like, oh, that's where you're getting all of your food if you want anything. Um, there's like a coffee shop that we would go to those couple of mornings, like before starting anything, and it was like a coffee shop slash like laundromat, and it was like that's it was like that's all you're getting. It
that's
was like
it.
those two places, like the market and the coffee and the laundromat. It was like that's all you need, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any shows that you have booked that you can talk about, or should people just go to the Instagram page and keep up to date on that?
Well, we're doing. I know the next thing we're doing is we or I think we announced or Dreamwell announced we're doing like a couple of shows with them at the end of June because we're both playing this like more like local festival here in Metro Detroit area called Pug Fest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a little run with Dreamwell around that, um, and then yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep it at that, and there will be some more announcements for the summer for sure.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
the Instagram handle is Heavenly Blue INTL. Is that it?
Yeah, I think it's like with with an underscore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, people will find it though, and obviously, like, I'll tag y'all when we post the episode. But yeah, if people don't know where that is already, they'll find it. Was there something else that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'm just gonna shout out. We're definitely doing New Friends too, which we're all very jazzed up about again. It's very wonderful to be welcomed back for a second year in a row. Very nice people, very amazing festival.
Yeah, for sure. One of the 5 best shows I've ever played in my life, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I wish I was gonna be seeing you there this summer, but I guess I'm just gonna be kicking it around here. And
I hear it. I feel so bad because I was like getting sick last year. I think it was like, I don't even remember what was happening. I think we were still trying to recover from a West Coast tour that we did, but I ended up driving in the day of, I think it was like the second day. Like there was no way I was going to be able to get the time off and be at that festival for all 3 days. So I remember a couple of us just drove in day of and then started driving home night of, after the set. So I'm like very excited to just like, I'll hopefully kick back and relax a little bit more this year and see what all 3 days in a row are like.
And that was my conversation with Drew Coughlin. Thank you so much, Drew, for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to all of y'all for listening wherever you are as well. Until next time, take care and do good things.